Check it out. New phone, new chair, Week 15 recap. Let's get it. All right, and welcome in, everybody. Hope you're having a fantastic, fantabulous, awesome freaking day. My name is Garrett Shumake, and you are listening to the Shumake Take. This is episode number 31, and we're going to be recapping NFL Week 15. You guys know the drill of how we're going to do this. We're going to start with Thursday Night Football and go all the way to Sunday Night Football, and at the end of the episode, I'm going to have a special little segment talking about college football, giving you guys my thoughts on the college football playoff, who I think is going to win the first round, and, reacting to Travis Hunter winning the Heisman, Bill Belichick becoming the head coach of North Carolina. That's absolutely insane. And then the end, we'll talk about the NFL draft a little bit because today a lot of quarterbacks today's Tuesday or Monday, but a lot of quarterbacks got benched in Week 15. And I'm just going to say that this NFL draft coming up is going to be absolute chaos, but we'll talk about more about that at the end of the episode. Let's get into a little bit of housekeeping first. First things first, I'm wearing the shirt. The shirt I'm wearing, it says College Level Complete. It's a shirt that my mother got me when I graduated from college. It's a nice shirt. It's an awesome shirt. Very comfortable. Along with that, I'm not wearing a hat. I'm going to stop wearing hats for a while because I've noticed in my thumbnails and in my videos, the shadow that gets right here on my forehead does not look good. And without it, obviously, now my full face is lit up, clear. I look pretty. And my hair as well. I love my hair. So I'm going to rock it for a little while, hoping my hair doesn't sink down and drop as the episode goes on, although it probably will. So disclaimer before that happens. Along with that, Christmas shopping. I went Christmas shopping over the weekend, and guys, I hope you guys don't have to go Christmas shopping here. It's Christmas. Christmas is literally in a week, and oh my God, I'm not doing that again. It was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. I was out for 2.5 hours, and it wasn't because I was looking at stuff. Sure, yeah, it was, but it's just the fact that there's so many people out. I once had to go to Walmart to get a couple things, and at Walmart, it was jam-packed, dude. My Walmart's one of those super Walmarts that's been built, and there's a self-checkout area with 40 registers. Each line, there's 2 lines going into it, one on each end, and each line had at least 30 people in each line, not including the people that are already in there checking out. Are you kidding me? That's insane. That's absolutely insane. So sitting in line, waiting, and then finally I looked over, saw one of the cashier lines getting really slow, or getting a very few people. It was moving pretty quickly, so I decided, hey, I'm gonna jump out of line. I went over there. They keep 4 of them on hand just in case. If you hear my dog barking, I'm sorry. Other than that, the sentimental item for today's episode is going to be 2 things. First off, the device that I'm recording this video on right now. I got a brand new phone. If you watch the intro, I got a Pixel 9 Pro XL, brand spanking new. The first time I've really splurged on a new phone like that, and I've been loving it. The camera is fantastic. All the many more megapixels. The macro lens, that's awesome. It can boost video. I have a speech quality increaser, so my voice is going to be sounding much better than ever. Along with it, being higher, because you can see my full face now clearly, and that's why I have a new chair. I got a brand new spanking chair behind me. It's an office chair that's really comfortable, leather, or maybe faux leather. Very soft, very firm though at the same time. It helps keep my back, to keep the posture really good when I'm sitting backwards. Obviously, I'm leaning forward right now because this is not really a desk. It's not meant to be a desk. There's a whole thing right here, so my knees are bashing up against it. But this is really comfortable. It's got a thing, recliner. It rolls out. It'll lean backwards so I can chill in here. Really comfortable. I've done it. And it's great. It's absolutely great. Got a better camera, better video quality for you guys. I got a better chair for me, so I'm more comfortable. And we got a better show coming today and for days to come for a while. But other than that, I think that's it. Let's get into it. Let's get into Thursday Night Football, and where we start off very, very rough. The Rams beating the 49ers in San Francisco, 12-6. Rams getting an ugly win But they continue to show that they are not dead and very, very much alive now that they've taken first place in the NFC West. Unfortunately for the 49ers, it is over. The biggest takeaway from this game was who made more plays. The Rams did. And while it's a very much of a blanket statement to say, oh, the winning team made more plays. Wow. Here's the deal. In games like this, where there's no touchdowns and it's just very, very boring for most fans, it's very boring. And for a football person like me, I'm not going to say I get excited because there's nothing exciting about a 12-6 football game now. Like, hear me out. There's nothing. But now I'm actually going to use hear me out in the right context. Hear me out. It gets very interesting. Because to me, like how I view football as a science. I view it as a chess match. The complexity of the game, the X's and O's, are far more complex than most people won't even like understand. It's so freaking nuts how in depth some of this stuff is when you look into it. And for me, as someone who's done my research, who's looked into this stuff, who loves doing this stuff, it gets very interesting to me because now anytime there's a big play is even more magnified, if that makes sense. When there's a whole bunch of bad, sloppy defensive football and there's not enough offense, when the big play happens, oh, it feels good. It feels really, really good because the play just feels more it feels more like it's a momentum shifter. It feels like it's more earned. Like, I don't know how to describe it. It's interesting. It's very interesting because both defenses are playing out of their minds, really making the offenses struggle a lot, which in today's game, that's very hard to do. Especially with the Rams and the 49ers, both offenses being particularly pretty darn good in the NFL. So that's one thing. But it was a very interesting game. And going back to the point where, who made the most plays, the Rams, that's what had to happen. They were able to make more of those momentum shifting plays. They were able to make more opportunities for themselves to score points. The last 3 drives of the game, the Rams went down the field and scored 3 points on each of those drives. And that type of consistency, even though it's only 3-pointers every 3, field goals every time, that's still going to make you win the game. Because while scoring points is the name of the game in the NFL, in a low-scoring game like that, being able to constantly get down in the air, get down on the other side of the field and be in field goal range to put points up and continuously get scoring drives, most of the time, if you're able to get 4 or 5 possessions where you're scoring points, you're going to win a football game because drives are obviously hard to come by. They're hard to maintain at times. And so anytime you come away with points, it's huge. But in a game like this, where it's just a dogfight, it gets even bigger. And going into the Rams, players specifically on offense, Matthew Stafford, he had 160 yards passing, not like a very good statistical day, but in a game where the 49ers defense was playing really good, I thought he did enough to win because Puka Nacua, the only person that did anything in the receiving game, he had 7 catches for 97 yards, accounted for more than 50% of the entire passing yards in the entire game for Matthew Stafford. This dude's a dog. Puka Nacua is a dog. He is one of the best receivers in the NFL, in my opinion. And it's crazy because he had such a good rookie year. Then he got hurt. And so now he's, working his way back in. But he is good. He is really, really, really good, dude. He plays football. He plays wide receiver like a linebacker. He's a menace. Not only will he go out there and he will make a catch in traffic, like he'll go up and get it and box you out. He is, for a receiver, he is physical out the wazoo. You'll see receivers, they'll make a catch and make a man miss and get knocked down. No, this dude actively looks for contact, it feels like. He'll catch a ball, and if someone's running at him, he's going to lower his shoulder and pop that guy. And it's like, Jesus Christ, no receiver in the NFL is doing that. Not even guys like A.J. Brown or DK Metcalf are doing that. No, Puka Nacua will catch a ball and lay down a shoulder and hit you, which is... It's awesome. It's fun to watch because it's so different compared to what we've seen every wide receiver do after the catch and when they get the ball in their hands. All right, this episode is turning into a complete disaster at the moment. My video just stopped recording as I was finishing up my Rams conversation. I don't even know where I stopped. I guess. I remember talking about Puka Nacua playing like a menace. I can't even remember what I was talking about. I guess we'll talk about the 49ers. The Rams defense, real quick, the Rams defense got 3 sacks, got an interception. That made the difference, and the Rams are now 7-2 since the bye week. They are now the second half team that I've been talking about all year long. And it's not the Seahawks, it's the Rams. They've taken first place in the division. It's theirs to lose now. And then for the 49ers, Brock Purdy was 14-31, less than 50%, 142 yards, had an interception. That was not very good. And the only bright spot in the offense was George Kittle, had 4 catches for 61 yards. So it's nice to see him get some consistency and play well. This defense got 0 sacks. They couldn't make the big play. And then we talked about, Devondre Campbell left in the third quarter, quit on his team. He's going to be cut. It's a terrible thing. Can't do that. And I hate to be rushing this, guys. I'm sorry. But my head is just... Not only did I finish talking about this game, I completely finished talking about the Rams and Commanders, or the Saints and Commanders game. I was completely done with that. And then my tablet fell over with the stand and it knocked the football over. So I thought, okay, it fell over. I have to go cut. And then I walked up and noticed my phone was off to go stop the recording for a minute. And so now I'm paranoid. Now I'm really paranoid as to when my camera's going to stop recording, because it stopped exactly at 10 minutes. So I'm wondering is there a setting in there that that I don't know about yet that's stopping recording right at 10 minutes. So I'm going to check it here in a little bit again and just make sure everything's working. I might have to do multiple cuts in this video. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. This is, like I said, this episode is turning out into an absolute disaster. But we'll see. We'll have to figure it out, and we'll move on. And I'll quickly cover the Commanders and the Saints. Jaden Daniels really shined in this game. The Commanders won 20-19, by the way. Jaden Daniels, 226 yards, 2 touchdowns, 66 rushing yards, played fantastic, did what he was supposed to do. Terry McLaurin had 7 catches, 73 yards, had 2 touchdowns. Huge game for him. He's been one of the best receivers in the NFL. I mean, he always has been, but poor quarterback play has really held him back and really put him under the spotlight. But now that he's got a good quarterback, you can see that he's still a good receiver. He has never left. He's never been bad. He's been really good. And the big thing on offense for the Commanders was 10 different players catching a pass, which is crazy. It goes to show that Cliff Kingsbury is utilizing every player on this offense well to the best of their ability. And with some people hurt, like Austin Eckler, guys like Jeremy McNichols have had to step up, and they've played well in his absence, along with Brian Robinson. But the Commanders' defense was challenged in this game a lot. They allowed the Saints to come back in the second half, and Spencer Rattler threw a touchdown to Foster Moreau at the end of the regulation, went for a 2-point conversion and didn't get it. So that was unfortunate for them. But, Jake Haener, it started this game, the second-year man out of Fresno State, but he was 4 for 10, 49 yards, an interception, got benched in the third quarter, the first of multiple in this week of football. And Spencer Rattler came in, finished it out, 10-21, 135 yards, and had the touchdown. And outside of that, Cedric Wilson had a 21-yard touchdown pass. That was fun to watch. And Marquez Valdez-Scantling, 2 catches, 64 yards. That was pretty much it for the Saints offense. There wasn't really much to write home about, but it was a good performance because they were able to come back. They nearly won it at the end. And had they won, there would have been a little bit different of a conversation than we'd be having right now. And the Saints defense, along with their offense, played better. They got back into this game, of course, and I don't know if the interim head coach is going to be the next head coach. I doubt it, but I think you need to keep him on the roster. You need to keep him on your coaching staff because he's shown that he can get guys ready. They'll fight for him. They're playing better than they ever have all year, and that says something. That says a lot to where the Saints organization is at, and I talked about it last week, I believe, but you don't want to finish. The Saints are one of those purgatory teams, like where you finish 7-10 or 8-9, and you're not good enough to get a high draft pick, but you're not bad enough to get a high draft pick, but you're not good enough to make the playoffs either. But in this case, I think they're fine because they started off so horribly. They started off 2-7, and they've been much better since then. Much, much better. So in this type of case, sure, it's better than you win games, keep your culture. And that stuff is better than a draft pick and where you're picking in the draft. So it's much better. But that's pretty much it that I talked about for the Commanders and Saints game. Again, I'm sorry that I'm not really giving that much detail. And it's because I already talked about it with my phone not recording the video. So the fact that it stopped exactly at 10 minutes really concerns me because it makes me wonder if it's going to do it again. And if it does it again, we're going to have some serious problems. Serious problems, more than what we're already having right now. But just out of curiosity, I'm going to go check on it real quick and see what it's doing and make sure it's still recording. I will be right back. All right, we are back, and we got to move on to our next game on the list. The Chiefs defeating the Cleveland Browns 21-27. Chiefs continuing their success while Cleveland's offense stinks it up in a terrible, terrible way. Starting with the Chiefs, Mahomes 19 of 38, 50% completion percentage, 159 yards, 2 touchdowns. Not the best day for Patrick Mahomes, but he did suffer a high ankle sprain in this game. He's going to be considered week to week. So that's very, very unfortunate for the Chiefs and for Mahomes because he needs to be ready come playoff time, because if he's not, the Chiefs are going to be in a very interesting situation. But I think he's going to be fine. I don't know how exactly you would manage it. I believe maybe you would probably sit him in this game, maybe let him play week 17 and sit him week 18, maybe. I don't know. I don't really know, especially if the Chiefs went out and they get a first-round bye. That would be huge for them, so Mahomes has another week to get healthy. But I'm not really sure how they're going to do it, because you don't want to let him sit too much and then come back and be rusty, but you don't want to play him out there and risk re-aggravating the injury and making it worse, right? So it's a delicate balance there, so we'll have to see what happens. But along with that, the Chiefs ran the ball decently well. No player really had a big day, but it was a lot of good good simple performances, effective performances. Kareem Hunt had 45 yards. Isaiah Pacheco had 32. Xavier Worthy had a 26-yard rushing touchdown. That was explosive. That was fun. And then he also added on 46 receiving yards. And Noah Gray caught another touchdown. That's good for him. He's been a really good weapon for them this year, especially in the second half of the year. And the Chiefs defense played lights out in this game, had 5 sacks, 4 interceptions. And they just absolutely dominated. And Jameis Winston, the next quarterback on this list, was benched through 146 yards, 3 of those interceptions. They were all horrible. Ended up getting benched in the fourth quarter for Dorian Thompson-Robinson. He ended up throwing an interception as well. He didn't do much better. But, Jerome Ford had 7 carries, 84 yards, and a touchdown. Despite the... I'm so sorry. I just drank some water before I started coming back here to record again. But 7 carries, 84 yards, a touchdown. Played a good game despite the lack of snaps. Played very well. And Nick Chubb had 9 carries, 41 yards. He was doing well. He got hurt, and I think it was a broken foot. He's done for the rest of the year, and man, that's so sad. He came back. It was so emotional when he got that win against Pittsburgh in the snow. Got the touchdown that ended up winning it. It was just so sad. It's just so sad. But he's going to be done for the year. Hopefully he comes back next year and is better. But given how he looked when he came back from injury, he wasn't that great. So I don't know. Very, very unfortunate. But there is some good positive takeaway from this game. And it's Jerry Jeudy. Had 11 catches, 108 yards. And now, there's a receiver you can probably build around. You get another guy in there to pair up with him on the outside, and you got a solid duo there, I think. It's possible. Jerry Jeudy's played really well these past 3 games, and I'm really happy for him. I'm happy that he's stepping up and playing better than he ever has, and hoping that he can continue that to finish out this year, because that would be huge for the Browns going in if they have a good wide receiver that they can, throw to and build around, like I said. But defensively, they did all they could. They really did all they could. I didn't think they played all that bad. They really couldn't get them any big play or momentum-shifting plays. But, when the offense constantly turns the ball over and gives short field to the Chiefs, that's just hard. It's just really hard to win and overcome that situation. Most of the time, you're not going to, which is why the Browns lost. But I thought their defense played well. You held Mahomes to 50% completion percentage and only 159 yards. You made it hard for them. And sure, running the ball was a little bit more advantageous because of it. But... man, I thought that if the Browns had played better offense and not turned the ball over so much, there's a universe where the Browns would have upset them and won this game. I thought looking at how well their defense played, there was a possibility that would have happened in another time, but it didn't because the Browns offense was just so bad. And it's more of the Jameis Winston experience. Jameis Winston will give you some big plays, that make you, fall in love with the guy on the field, but then, throw these terrible boneheaded interceptions that's like, what the heck are you doing, dude? It makes you really question, like, what is this guy looking at? But for the Browns, that's pretty much all I have to say. For the Chiefs, that's all I have to say. I hate that I'm like talking how I'm talking right now because I feel like I'm rushing stuff even though I'm not. Like, I'm not fully invested right now because I'm so paranoid my phone's going to stop recording on me again. And so I'm scared. I'm scared, guys. I don't want it to do that again because like I said, the thing is it stopped right at 10 minutes, which is really concerning because when something stops recording, it never really stops right at a certain time. So it's really worrisome that it's doing that. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about the Bengals and the Titans. We're going to get through it. And then we're going to look at the phone. We're going to see what happened. And if it stops in the middle of the Bengals-Titans game, I might have to delay the video. But if you guys are seeing this on Tuesday morning, then obviously I didn't have to delay it. So we'll have to see. But we'll move on to the Bengals defeating the Tennessee Titans 37-27. Bengals continuing to gain momentum. And for Tennessee, especially their fan base, they're back in the dark ages. We'll start with Tennessee because the most notable quarterback that got benched in this week of football was Will Levis. The Will Levis experiment in Tennessee is over. Absolutely, utterly over. 8 of 12, 88 yards, 3 picks, the third one being a horrible pick 6, which led him to being benched in the third quarter. In his relief, Mason Rudolph came in, threw a couple hundred yards, threw a couple touchdowns, had an interception himself that wasn't very good. But Tennessee is going to need a quarterback. They're going to need a quarterback in next year's draft, which there's already too many teams that are in the running for one, in my opinion. And for Tennessee, this sucks. They really needed Will Levis this year to step up and play better because this quarterback class already is not that deep. A lot of the teams are already bad that need one. So Tennessee really couldn't afford for Will Levis to be bad, and he has been. He had 4 games in a row there where he looked like he was improving and getting better. And then Jacksonville, it wasn't good enough. And then this game against Cincinnati, he literally just stunk up the bed. And it was one of the worst games he's had all year. I mean, to be fair, going up the first couple games of the year, that's hard to beat. But, it's up there. The throws he made, the interceptions were absolutely horrible. He threw one right to a defender and completely missed his receiver. One of them he threw to the receiver way too high and it got tipped and intercepted. And then the other one just threw it over the middle of the field and wasn't even looking. And then in the postgame presser, he had the gall to blame his receiver after that, which is like, okay, dude, no, you're done. No, he's done. If he's going to start the rest of the year, fine, but it doesn't change anything. I think Tennessee's got to move into a new direction. But it wasn't just him that was bad. Overall, there were 6 turnovers, 4 interceptions, 2 fumbles. Simply not going to win that way. The only 2 bright spots for this team were that Tajay Spears had 87 receiving yards. He finally did something for them this year, which they've been waiting for. And then Chikakonkwo had 8 catches, 59 yards. I've always liked Chikakonkwo. I don't know if Chikakonkwo is a product, if he's just not that good or he's just not being utilized correctly. But when he was coming out of Maryland, I really liked him as a prospect because he was able to, he was like a bigger wide receiver. It wasn't really a traditional inline blocking tight end, but he was a bigger receiver that can run out there and catch the ball. Like, coincidentally enough, he reminded me a lot of Delaney Walker when he was coming out. But it seems like he's never been able to be utilized correctly because when I see some of his highlights, he makes good plays. He's good with the ball in his hands. He can run after the catch. He can get downfield. So I don't know why he's not schemed up to catch the ball more, but seeing him catch 8 passes into this game, that's good. It seems like they're finally trying to figure it out. And then the Titans defense, for the most part, I thought they played pretty darn well. They got 2 interceptions. They got a fumble. 2 out of 3 of those turnovers were in the red zone, taking points away from the Bengals. T'Vondre Sweat on the fumble, ran it back 30 yards. He stiff-armed him in. That was one of the best plays I've ever seen. Got a big man running down, bam, stiff-armed an offensive lineman. That was an awesome play. But Joe Burrow is that dude. He had 271 yards, 3 touchdowns. The 2 interceptions, they weren't great. And they really, struggled in the passing game compared to what they have throughout the year. Jamar Chase had 97 yards. He had a touchdown. Or 94 yards. It did not have a touchdown. I'm sorry. T. Higgins had the touchdown. 5 catches, 88 yards, and had a 38-yard touchdown. That was beautiful. Chase Brown had a 97 rushing yards and a touchdown, then added on a receiving touchdown as well. And then Sam Hubbard caught a touchdown. The defensive lineman made a play there in the red zone. That was awesome. And for the Titans, Jeff Simmons was out there playing fullback. So it was a really interesting chess match going on right there. That was kind of fun and interesting. But the Bengals, they have momentum now. And for the playoffs, for them to get in, they're going to need to win out and have multiple teams ahead of them lose some games so they can, jump in and take that last spot, which is unlikely. But either way, I mean, even if they win out and they miss the playoffs, it'd be huge for them to finish out this year strong going into next year. Considering how much of a disappointing year it's been for the Bengals, they really need this. They really, really do need this. If they can win out, it'd be awesome. And for Tennessee, like I said, they did some good things in this game. They were in it. They were up 14-7 at one point, and they just too many turnovers, too many penalties, which has been the MO for the Titans all year. It's been an absolute disaster. And like I said, I thought that Tennessee would be like an 8-9, 9-win team. I genuinely did not expect this Tennessee Titans team to be this bad. I genuinely did not expect that. Considering, they got a young offensive head coach. They got some really good coaches with really good track records. They got overhauled this roster. They had a good draft, I believe. And man, it's tough. It's really tough. And now the quarterback situation is all ruined. You have to reset there. And there's been doubts if Brian Callahan's really the right head coach. And for Tennessee, I mean, this is just not looking good for them. It's simply not looking good for them. Things are going back to the dark ages over there. And a couple other teams are like that as well, if they're not already there. But that's just, I don't know. It's sad. Now they need a quarterback. It's a mess. Absolute mess over there. Been an absolute total disaster for Tennessee. And for Cincinnati, like I said, just try to finish the season strong and continue and build on going into next year and having some momentum. Overhaul your defense and maybe you'll come back better. But we'll move on. Before that, I'm going to check my phone and make sure it didn't stop recording at 10 minutes again, because now I'm absolutely paranoid out the wazoo. So hopefully, one more jump cut. I will be right back. Okay. Okay, we're back. My phone is up to 12 minutes recording, so it passed the 10-minute mark, which is really good news. I have no idea why my phone did that. It could be that my phone has like a boost video feature, so maybe like it stopped it after a certain point because it was going to be too long, too big of a file, so that might be it. But we'll move on. We're going to move on to the Dolphins losing to the Houston Texans 20-12. Texans getting a solid win. And Miami's playoff hunt is mathematically just about finished. But before that, we'll talk about it at the end. But going into the game, C.J. Stroud had 131 yards, 2 touchdowns. Nico Collins had got both of them. Offensively, it was fine. I mean, it wasn't great, but you know what? Coming off your bye week, Miami's been on a hot streak. They've been doing pretty good. That was going to be a tough game. But Houston got the win at home. Their defense really shined in this game. They got 3 sacks, 3 interceptions. The interceptions were clutch. Derek Stingley, the last interception, Tua tried to throw it to Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill had it in his hands, and as they were falling down, Stingley was able to grab it and snatch it away. Absolutely huge play. Derek Stingley's been playing absolutely out of his mind. And for Miami, Tua, 29-40, 196 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. Simply not going to get it done. Malik Washington had 5 catches, 52 yards. That was nice. Johnny Smith had a 9 for 48 and a touchdown. Good stuff. Tyreek Hill, 2 catches, 36 yards. Not good enough. Jalen Waddle got hurt in this game as well, which also didn't help. But I thought the Dolphins defense overall played well, though. I mean, they got 4 sacks. You really eliminated the run game for Houston, which is why they why they struggled so much offensively. And with Waddle being hurt, it made their offense that much harder to execute and run. And for Miami, I mean, they're not making the playoffs because they are literally ride or die by Tua. And when Tua's now on the field and he's not playing well, this team doesn't play well. They don't compete. And it's easy to say, oh, when your starting quarterback's not playing well, the rest of the team doesn't play well. That's obvious. Yes, they go hand in hand with each other. But Jesus Christ, when this team does not have Tua or Tua does not play well, this team cannot elevate it. No player or no group can elevate the rest of the team and keep it going. Like, the moment like Tua gets hurt or he starts playing bad, like everything else just collapses with him. And that's not a formula to make the playoffs. Sorry, not sorry. It's simply not. And if the Dolphins want to get better, they're going to have to change that philosophy because they can't continue like playing games like that. They can't continue playing games where literally if your starting quarterback plays bad or goes down, everything falls apart. That's not how it's supposed to be. In that situation, you should have players, you should have guys that are able to elevate the rest of the team when one player is not doing that well. And they don't have that, which is unfortunate because if they had that, they'd probably be a lot better off, but they don't. And for Houston, with Indianapolis losing, which we'll talk about here a little bit in the show, Houston has now won the AFC South as a surprise to nobody. They won it. Good for them. Congratulations. You are now in the playoffs, probably going into the 4th seed at this point. The Steelers, Bills, and Chiefs are far ahead of them right now. But it's good. Congratulations to Houston for winning the division. You got a tough win against a really hot Miami Dolphins team as of late. Defensively stepped up big when the offense was struggling, which has been a thing all year. When the offense struggles, usually the team falls apart. Nope, the defense responded in a big way in this game. Huge for them. Huge for their playoff prospects. And that's about it for this episode. Just give me a second. I just need to stretch my neck. My neck is hurting. Oh, man. Sorry, guys. Just give me a second. All right, this one will be quick. Be a way to get back into the swing of things. The Ravens defeating the New York Giants 35-14. I picked this. I expected this to happen. Absolutely wrecked them. The Ravens destroying them. Lamar Jackson, 21 of 25, 290 yards, 5 passing touchdowns at 65 rushing yards on the ground as well. Played absolutely fantastic. And he now has 6 games in his career, 5 passing touchdowns, which the next closest guy has 4 in their entire career. Can't remember who it is, but that is awesome. Lamar Jackson playing out of his mind. It just sucks that there's a couple games in there where he didn't play all that well, or else he'd be in the MVP conversation. But either way, playing really well. Derrick Henry had 14 carries, 67 yards. Not the best game for him, but overall it was fine. It was a productive performance. And then Rashad Bateman, he made 2 big plays. Had a 49-yard touchdown, a 25-yard touchdown. Ended up finishing with 80 yards on the day, which is huge for him. Justice Hill had 61 receiving yards and a touchdown. Not really good running the football, but catching the football, pretty good. That's what he's known for. And then Zay Flowers had 53 yards. Mark Andrews and Devontae Walker both caught touchdowns in this game. It was just a really good day offensively for the Baltimore Ravens. You're going up against a defense that's not that good. This is what you should do. And then for the Giants, Tommy DeVito, 10 of 13, only 68 yards, got hurt in this game. Tim Boyle had to come in, completed at 50%, 123 yards, a touchdown and a pick. So not great. The only bright spot was that Malik Neighbors got 10 catches for 82 yards and a touchdown. And he's literally breaking every single rookie record that OBJ set back in 2014, which is good. You have an elite wide receiver. That's good, but now you got to go get a quarterback. Maybe Cam Ward. That'd be interesting. And then defensively, you got 3 sacks. Woo! Other than that, that's it. That's literally it for the Giants. Simply not good enough there from them. And I expected this. I expected the Ravens to destroy him, and that's exactly what happened in this game. Okay, we'll move on to the Jets beating the Jaguars 35-32. Jets getting a very questionable win. And while Jacksonville falls, they were in it, which is a big positive for them. We'll start with the Jets. Aaron Rodgers, 16 of 30, 289 yards, 3 touchdowns, led the team in rushing with 45 yards. Yeah, Aaron Rodgers did that in this game. 45 rushing yards for the 41-year-old quarterback. That's a stat I never thought I'd look at, but here we are, we're looking at it. And as a team, overall, they rushed fine. They had 100 yards on the day, so not very much, too much to say there. But Devontae Adams, 9 catches, 198 yards, 2 touchdowns. This guy has still got it. He is still a top 5 receiver in the NFL. and that's a hill I will die on. He is a great receiver, just a victim of poor quarterback play. All of last year and this year simply hasn't been where it needed to be. And guess what? He got his due in this game. Absolutely, like one of the best games I think he's ever had in his career. Practically, it was awesome. It was really good. And then Garrett Wilson had 56 yards and a touchdown. Fantastic. The defense got 2 interceptions, but they really struggled in this game against Jacksonville of all teams. I said it last week, and I'm going to repeat myself again. Bad teams do not know how to win other than one specific way. Again, the offense had another really good day, and the defense simply could not do what they do and complement that. And it's tough because, like I said, bad football teams, they struggle to win in different ways. They always find one way to win, and that's how they do it. So, I mean, it's nice that they actually won this game. But, man, I mean, if the offense could just get back, if the offense could have been like this earlier in the year with the defense, how they had been playing all year practically, I mean, it would have been, the Jets would be a lot better than they are right now. But, unfortunately, that's not the case. And then for going to Jacksonville, Mac Jones had 294 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. I thought overall he played fine. Etienne and Bigsby had over 100 yards on the ground collectively as a duo. They were finally good together for the first time since, the early on in the year. And Brian Thomas Jr., 10 catches, 105 yards, 2 touchdowns. There was a lot of good on the offensive side for the Jaguars. And Mac Jones stepping in for Trevor Lawrence, playing fine for the most part. But the big thing is seeing Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby play well, because if you can go into next year with these two guys, for sure being your bona fide 1 and 2, 1A, 1B running back group, that's good. Maybe you bring in another guy as an insurance. And for Jacksonville, Brian Thomas Jr. is a good receiver. You need another guy. Gabe Davis simply hasn't been it. And Evan Ingram, he's hurt. So Christian Kirk is also hurt. So it's unfortunate. And Brenton Strange had 11 catches, 73 yards. So that was a nice surprise that the backup tight end. And then defensively, fell back to earth, wasn't that good. I mean, you let the Jets score 30 points on you, so that stands for something. But then again, you held Tennessee to 6 points last week. So, hey, sometimes you win some, sometimes you lose some, am I right? But for the Jets, it's nice to win a game. Just depending on how this offseason goes, or depending on how this season ends, the offseason is going to be a lot. It could go in a bunch of different directions for the New York Jets. Obviously, they're going to get a head coach. They got to get a new GM. But for the Jets, if Aaron Rodgers can play well at the end of this year, I think they may bring him back for one more year. With how the quarterback draft is, or the draft is looking for quarterbacks right now, I don't know if that's advantageous to do that. Maybe you if he stinks it up, you let him go, get a veteran, and then draft a guy maybe in the second, third round where it's realistic to be able to get one. But here's the thing is, for the Jaguars, the fact that they're playing well and playing hard is a good sign. I thought they had been given up at this point, but it showed that they're still fighting, they're still giving effort, and that's good for Doug Peterson. It's good for the consistency of the organization, I guess. And if you like Doug Peterson, sure. If you don't like Doug Peterson, it's not a good thing, I guess. But it's overall, I mean, you're in it. It's good. They probably should have won this game, but the Jets, they were able to pull it out. I mean, they were the team that should have won this game. But they pulled it out. The defense wasn't good, but they, held up in the final drive. So that counts for something. Man, I don't know why, but I'm visually looking at the camera, I'm zoning out. I don't know why. I'm just completely zoning out. I'm going to check my phone real quick and make sure it's still recording. I'm just going to keep on going, honestly. I don't really care at this point. This episode has been an absolute disaster, and it's still going. Okay, good. But yeah, I don't know why. My eyes, I don't know what it's going to look like in the video, but my eyes are just not focused. When I'm looking at the script and looking at the camera, I find my eyes just kind of dilating a little bit, and everything starts to get a little blurry, which is interesting. God dang it. I'm not picking that back up. They've already fell down one time. I'm not picking it up. We're going to roll on without it. The show must go on at this point. I can't stop it anymore. But we'll move on to the Panthers and Cowboys game, which is pretty disappointing. I thought this game would be better. The Cowboys beating Carolina 30-14. Absolutely dominant performance by them. We'll just immediately jump in. Cooper Rush, 18-29, 214 yards, 3 touchdowns. Outside of the fumble right before halftime, he was really good in this game. Rico Dowdle, 25 carries, 149 yards. This guy is your running back 1 in 2025. He has to be. You have to give him that shot. The way he's played the past 3 games has been absolutely fantastic. And for the Cowboys, they've been on their winning streak. Well, not a win streak because they lost against Cincinnati, but they've played so much better football here these past few weeks since Thanksgiving. And man, it's great. It's absolutely great that they're playing better football now down the stretch. It looks like Mike McCarthy is going to be there for another year. And hey, maybe you actually spend some money in free agency this time. Maybe you actually get a good draft going. And then sure, we can talk about the Dallas Cowboys rebounding and being a good team next year. We'll have to see, but at least they're showing that they could be that next year. They're showing that this team is not fully dead. They're still fighting. They're still giving effort, and they're still trying to win, which at this point in the year when you're not going to make the playoffs, that's huge. It's huge for keeping your culture, especially with a guy like Mike McCarthy who could be on his way out after the year if the season continue to unravel like it did in the first half of the year. But the fact that they're getting better shows that they have a good opportunity to bounce back next year. And defensively, we'll continue there. I didn't even mention CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb had 9 catches, 116 yards, and a touchdown. Good game for him. And the defense had 5 sacks, 2 picks. And Dallas, the thing was, Dallas dominated in the first half of this game. They were up, I think it was 14-0 or 17-0. And then Cooper Rush fumbled the football in the red zone. Panthers get it back on the next play. Bryce Young throws an 80-yard touchdown to rookie Jalen Coker right before halftime, and they only scored 1 touchdown the rest of the game, which is sad. Bryce Young, 19-28, 219 yards, had a touchdown, had those 2 interceptions but weren't good. Jalen Coker ended up finishing with 4 catches on 110 yards on the day, which good for him. He's an undrafted guy. Don't remember where he came out of, but it's good to see a guy playing well and making the most of his opportunity. And then Adam Thielen, 5 catches, 51 yards, continues to play consistently here in the second half of the season. Just defensively, they just weren't juiced. Defensively, they've been playing a lot better over these past few weeks. And so going up against the Cowboys offense that's really resurged, I thought looking at the Cowboys offense and the Panthers defense, both sides of the ball, they really haven't been good the first half of the year for their respective teams. And I thought this game would be a little bit better because of it. This is a test for both sides. What are you going to do? What are you going to show up with? And the Panthers defense simply just didn't have the juice in this game. I thought that they'd play better, but they simply didn't. This game was nowhere near as fun as I hoped it would be, which is unfortunate. And for the Panthers, it's a loss that sucks. And hey, you're going to be running for Travis Hunter, I guess. You'll have to see what happens there. For Dallas, this win here helps keep their culture. It helps keep everything together. And maybe next year, when you actually spend some money, you can go back to being a good football team. Man. All right, getting into the 4 o'clock games, one of my best games of the week, which, by the way, every single game of my top 5 best games of the week were horrible. Every single one was not that good of a football game, which is so disappointing. So disappointing, because I was excited for these games. And they simply were not that good. And it starts with the Bucs defeating the Chargers in LA 40-17. The Bucs get a absolutely huge win and asserting their dominance, and LA just unraveled. Baker Mayfield was 22 of 27, 288 yards, 4 passing touchdowns. He did have an interception in the second quarter that led to a Chargers touchdown. It was a bad throw. Fine. But I talked about it last week. You let Baker Mayfield just play his heart out and play football, and he's going to do good things for you most of the time, and that's what he did in this game. And he had some help, too. Bucky Irving, 15 carries, 117 yards. Rashawn White, 15 carries, 64 yards. They ran the ball down the Chargers' throats. The Chargers have had one of the best run defenses in the NFL. But do they actually? No. I think it's pretty good, to my understanding. Yeah, it's a pretty good run defense, but still, they got absolutely gashed. It was terrible. And then Mike Evans had 159 yards, 2 touchdowns, torched him through the air. Jalen McMillan had 5 catches, had 75 yards and a touchdown. It was good to see him step up. And then defensively, they were all over it. They were all over it. And games like these are where I get concerned with the LA Chargers, because this is a third straight game in a row without J.K. Dobbins, and the team has not been able to run the ball. They simply have not been able to do what they need to do in that department, and it's made this offense a lot more obviously it's made it more one-dimensional, but it's made it really hard to do what they need to do. Justin Herbert was 21 of 33, 195 yards, 2 touchdowns, and threw an interception, his first interception in like 300 passing attempts, something like that, some insane stat. And it happened because you can't run the ball. When you can't run the ball, it makes it so much harder to throw it downfield. And man, for the Chargers, they simply need to get J.K. Dobbins back. Because come playoff time, if they even hold on to make the playoffs at this point, who knows? But if they hold on and make the playoffs, you got to pray that J.K. Dobbins comes back. Because if not, they're probably going to be a first-round exit. And I know it's drastic because I talked about a couple weeks ago how they're a legit playoff team. I don't know. Without J.K. Dobbins and his ability to run the football, it's been a very, very tough sledding for the Chargers. But it's not just that, too. McConkey and Ladd McConkey and Quentin Johnston both went over 50 yards and caught a touchdown, but that's not going to be good enough. Outside of those two guys, they're simply not that dominant receiver that's constantly making plays. Ladd McConkey, sure, he's a great separator and gets open, but sometimes he's a rookie. Sometimes he makes mistakes. And then Quentin Johnston's a burner/deep threat. There's no solid, reliable target in LA. And you're sure you can say that's Ladd McConkey. He's really played well this year, but they need something else. They need another element to this passing game that they're severely missing. And this is one of the things I talked about at the beginning of the year. Just worried that the Chargers were going to finish 8-9 because the offensive cupboard was simply not that good enough. And without J.K. Dobbins, it's been it's been hard. It's been really hard for the Chargers to do what they need to do. And you've lost 2 out of the last 3. The Broncos have now overtaken you in the division. You have a couple teams like the Dolphins and the Bengals trying to stay in the mix, even though I think they're going to be out. So the Chargers might end up winning and taking the 7th seed by default. But you can't afford to lose any more games, because if any of these teams, like I mentioned, the Bengals or the Dolphins decide to go on a late season run, probably the Bengals, not the Dolphins. I don't have any faith in the Dolphins. But if the Bengals are to do it, make a comeback, shoot, I mean, there's a possibility there. But the Chargers need to hang on, and hopefully come playoff time, it'll be better. And for Tampa's a threat. Tampa is a threat now. I'm not going to go as far to say they're a bona fide Super Bowl contender, but remember last year, they destroyed Philly at home, and they went into Detroit and nearly beat them? Remember that? This Bucs team is that team, and they will give any team they go up against in the playoffs everything they have. In every sense of the term, I've talked about it a couple times on the show already, but I mean it in every sense of the term. They are going to give their opponent everything they got. This team was going to go down fighting, kicking, and screaming, and they're probably going to win a playoff game or 2. It's very much possible. It would not surprise me if Tampa made it all the way to the NFC Championship. It wouldn't, because offensively, Baker Mayfield's playing out of his mind. Defensively, they're playing great, playing the best football they have all year, in my opinion. And you got a team that just fights. They just fight hard. They don't quit. They got a lot of heart. And that's reflective of their head coach. It's reflective of their quarterback and where they are as a team right now. And despite the injuries, despite the adversity they had in the middle of the year, they've really bounced back and been a team that, now in my opinion, they're winning the NFC South outright. I think they're going to do it. I think that it's theirs for the taking, and that leaves everyone else in the NFC South out of a playoff spot. But for Tampa, really huge win for them, and they are a threat in the playoffs. Do not expect to win easily against Tampa Bay. And speaking of the Colts and the Broncos, as we talked about earlier, the Broncos beat them 31-13. Broncos securing their first winning season since 2016. Dang near on the verge of a playoff berth. Unfortunately for the Colts, however, it's over. Just about. It is looking like Anthony Richardson is a bust. 17 of 38, 172 yards, no touchdowns, 2 picks. Oh, man, this is so sad. It is so sad because the Colts spent the third overall pick on this guy, and he simply looks horrible. He looks horrible. He's only had one game this year that I would say is even good. That's it. Outside of that, he's been horrible. Absolutely horrible. And for the Colts, it wasn't just Anthony Richardson. This team simply just got beat up. And it started with Jonathan Taylor. Had 22 carries, 107 yards. Not a bad day statistically, but it did the thing. He did the thing where you fumble the ball right before you cross the end zone. And the Broncos ended up going on a 24-0 run in the second half and ended up winning. And it's like, Jesus Christ, dude. Jesus Christ. Why? It is 2024 and we are still doing this crap. Are you kidding me? Come on, JT. Come on, dude. You can't be doing that. Why? Why are we still having players fumble the ball right before crossing the goal line? It happened earlier this year with Malachi Corley, the rookie receiver for the Jets, in Houston, against Houston. That happened earlier this year. That already happened once. It happened 2 or 3 times this year in college. Why are we still doing this? Why are we still having players drop the ball before crossing the goal line? How hard is it to just run across and just cross it, then drop it? What's the lack of awareness that I'm missing here? It's crazy. It's like ever since Deshaun Jackson did it his rookie year all those years ago back in the mid-2000s, it's like now every player does it. It happens like once or 2 to 3 times a year between college and the NFL collectively where this happens, and it's like, Jesus Christ, how are we not learning from this? How are we repeating these same mistakes, dude? It's frustrating, but ultimately, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Like I said, the Broncos went on a 24-0 run and absolutely dominated this football team, which was to be expected. Defensively, you got 3 picks. You picked off Bo Nix 3 times, but when you throw 2 picks yourself on offense and you fumble the ball 3 times, you're not going to win. You can't win the turnover battle. You're not going to win. And it's unfortunate because the Colts defense, I thought, had played a decent game to that point, and then they just completely unraveled and fell apart. And the bright spot for this team, for the Broncos, was their defense. It shined. And what really got it was the fact that they got interior pressure. The Colts, one of the bright spots on their team is their interior offensive line has been really, really good this year. But they were able to get pressure. They really didn't get home for sacks. But they were able to just get Anthony Richardson out of the pocket. They were able to make him uncomfortable. And Anthony Richardson can run around and make all his plays, but it doesn't matter because he can't throw the football. So if you just get him pressure and just make him uncomfortable, he's just going to fall apart and shatter, and that's what happened. You were able to take advantage of the one thing that the Colts have really been able to do consistently good all year long outside of Jonathan Taylor, and it worked, and absolutely worked. And then offensively for the Broncos, Bo Nix had 130 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 picks. And, not the best day for Bo Nix, but when the defense is making multiple turnovers, you get 5 turnovers, you get multiple short fields, boom, you go down, you score when you need to score, and you win. That's, the Broncos sensational year continues, and it's been great. And stuff like that is why it's been so great. Just take one side of the ball struggling, defense steps up, takes advantage, and makes it easier for the offense. Complementary football, which is what I've been talking about all year. If you're able to do that, you're going to win many football games. And for Sean Payton, I'm so happy that he was able to get this team to a point where it is right now. It's been great. I can't wait to watch this team when they make the playoffs. I'm willing to say that now. They're going to be a really fun team to watch. And for years to come, I'm hoping things will be a lot better. But for the Colts, the stables are dark. The stables are stark right now, and it's another team going into next year where they need a quarterback. Because Anthony Richardson literally just looks horrible. He looks like one of the worst starting quarterbacks in the NFL. And it's so sad because he's a good guy. He has so much talent, but he just doesn't have it. And I don't get it. I simply don't get it. I'm probably just the inexperience if I had to guess. I mean, when you only play 13 games or not even like 12 games in college, 15 games in college, you go to the NFL, it's simply the transition is just too vast. I think it's just too vast, and I think they made a mistake starting him his rookie year. I think they should have let him sit and adjust, and he just reminds me a lot of Malik Willis, a guy that had a lot of talent in college, but didn't have a lot of experience and just couldn't develop and make that transition to the NFL. And like I said, it's another team that's going to need a quarterback next year, where it's right now it's, there's simply more teams in demand for a quarterback than there's simply good enough prospects available to draft. So it's going to get interesting. We'll talk about it at the end of the show. Moving on to the Patriots at the Cardinals. Cardinals winning 30-17. They get a win to stay in the playoff race as much as they can. In New England, things are getting a little shaky over there. But starting with the Cardinals, Kyler Murray, 23 of 30, 224 yards, one of his better games of the year, just from an efficiency standpoint. He played really good football. James Conner had 110 yards and 2 touchdowns. He played fantastic. Trey McBride had 87 yards for 9 catches. Fantastic. Greg Dortch had 3 catches, 60 yards. Nice surprise. I remember watching him on Hard Knocks with the Raiders and being one of those guys like in the bottom of the roster, really trying to make it. Didn't make it, unfortunately, but Greg Dortch, I mean, he's a I don't want to say he's a good receiver, but like he's a good depth guy. He'll make a couple plays for you here and there, and he had a good game this game. Marvin Harrison Jr., though, has been a big disappointment. I'm willing to let it go because he's a rookie, but I thought Marvin Harrison Jr. would be a difference maker in year one, and had he been that, I believe that the Cardinals would be a lot better, because offensively, it's literally just been Kyler Murray, Trey McBride, and James Conner. That's it. There's really been no other guy that's stepped up and been that playmaker for them. And a lot of people thought Marvin Harrison Jr. would be that guy, and he simply hasn't, which is unfortunate. But hey, maybe next year he steps up and is better. He's a rookie, so you get that rookie pass. And defensively, you get 2 sacks, you get an interception. Just a dominant game all the way around is what they've needed. The Cardinals defense really hasn't been all that good this year, but they've shown some improvement. And in a game going up against an opponent like Drake May and a rookie quarterback, it's a good performance to be able to say, hey, we can play a good defense against a decent offense and a rookie quarterback who's been playing well. We can do that, and they did that, which is really good. And then for the Patriots, Drake May continues to show promise. He only had 200 yards and a touchdown. He had an interception in this game. But outside of like one bad play a game, Drake May is playing very, very well. And you feel much more about him than some of these other guys that have been drafted in recent years and where they're at. And you see the growth. You see the growth. You see the improvement. And also, he's much further along than I thought he would be. I thought coming out of college, this guy was really raw. He was going to be, a 2 to 3 year project. But quite frankly, he's been playing pretty darn well. And if it wasn't for Caleb Williams having his moments, it wasn't for Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix playing out of their minds. I mean, Drake May, he's been very good. Not really many people have talked about it, but he's played really well. And then on the ground, Ramondre Stevenson had 69 yards on 13 carries. I mean, there was some stuff there. They need a receiver. That's the big thing. They need to draft a receiver in this draft. Simply, there's not good enough playmakers out there. And the big takeaway for the Patriots, though, is the defense is horrible, of course. And Gerard Mayo is apparently coaching for his job. There's a rumor out right now that the way the team has gone is not how Robert Kraft thought it would be. And so now it's possible that if Gerard Mayo doesn't have a strong showing these last 3 games, he might be out of a job in year one, which is weird because he had it. It was in the contract that he would take over after Bill Belichick retired or left the team. So there was that going on. And then people wanted Vrabel. That was a whole situation going on when when Tennessee let him go. But it's frustrating because Gerard Mayo, he's a defensive mind. So your defense should be good, but it's not. He's a Hall of Fame level linebacker. He might be in the Hall of Fame. I can't remember 100%. But he's a good coach. It's just as a head coach, I don't think he's the right guy. Simply put, he's said some things in the press that have been very questionable. The roster obviously is not that good. That's not entirely on him. The roster was pretty barren when he got here anyways, so there's not much you could do. But it's frustrating because you have to let Gerard Mayo go, and then Drake May's got to get a new head coach, a new system. That doesn't help his development at all. So I don't know what the Patriots are going to do, but quite frankly, maybe you just have to go with Gerard Mayo another year and see. Hope maybe he finishes out strong this year and you move on with him next year for consistency for Drake May, because it's getting annoying that so many rookie quarterbacks now are getting drafted. Their head coaches get fired after a year and they bring in a new guy and they have to learn a whole new system in year 2. They have to learn a whole new thing. And it's like, can we please get an organization to get a head coach and draft a quarterback at the same time for once? Like, it's just not been happening at all this year, in these past couple of years recently. And so it's a mess. It's an absolute mess. And it shows, why so many young quarterbacks are failing in the NFL, because there's no consistency and no good situation for them to go into. But it's unfortunate. Hopefully the Patriots can, get right and figure out, okay, maybe next year with Rod Mayo, things get better, or you got to let him go and start fresh. Whatever the Patriots decide to do, you just got to hope that it's the right decision, because if they mess it up, Drake May is not going to have a good career with the Patriots. That's the last thing you want, is to take a quarterback that's showing so much promise and to screw that up by, either sticking with the wrong coach or getting rid of the right coach, and you end up you end up picking up the wrong coach. But for the Cardinals, we'll conclude with them real quick. Jonathan Gannon is getting a lot of improvement from the Cardinals, especially on the defense. They've been playing a little bit better. They're a very young roster, so I didn't expect them to do too much this year, but they're playing better than I thought they would. They're in the playoff race still, so which is a good sign. But definitely they're in a much better position than I thought they'd be in. Next year, we might be talking about this team being a dark horse playoff team for sure. We'll move on to the Bills defeating the Lions 48-42. This game, on paper, you would think this was the game of the year. This was not the game of the year. Oh, man, this game was so disappointing. And you want to know why disappointing? Because I was right. I've never been so annoyed with being right about something. I said it last episode, on episode 30. I said the Bills are going to win because they're going to put up the points on the Lions defense, which is too hurt. It's going to be way too much, and that's what happened. The Bills just got out to a hot start and just never looked back. From the moment the opening kickoff happened, from the moment of the word go was said, they just went on a tear. They went on an absolute tear. Josh Allen had 2 touchdowns passing, 2 touchdowns rushing. He had 362 yards passing, 68 yards rushing. He is the MVP of the league right now. He is playing out of his mind. He's doing stuff that we've never seen a quarterback do before, forever. It's crazy. He is, Lamar Jackson, step aside for a second. Right now, Josh Allen is the dual threat quarterback this year. That is a fact. He is the dual threat quarterback, and he should win MVP this year. While Saquon Barkley was in the conversation, he should be winning Offensive Player of the Year. Josh Allen should be the MVP. He has absolutely elevated this team, and in a way where so many people thought the Bills, including myself, would take a step back. I had them going 9-8. This team has stepped up in such a big way. The weapons on this offense, while on paper didn't look great, they're getting a lot of value out of them because they're utilizing them to their strengths. And you look at James Cook, he had 105 yards, 2 touchdowns. Ty Johnson, the third string running back, had 5 catches, 114 yards, had 2 really big catches downfield with Josh Allen making plays out of nowhere. Keon Coleman had a big 64-yard catch. Josh Allen rolling to his right, literally just sat there on the sideline, buying as much time as possible, let it rip last second and found him. And it's Jesus Christ, this offense is nuts. If it wasn't for the Lions, they'd be the best. If it wasn't for Detroit, they'd be the best offense in the NFL. They're number 2, in my opinion. There's no doubt about that. And I mentioned it a little bit a second ago, but for Detroit, it's just the injuries on defense. The injuries on defense have caught up to them. Going up against a really good offense like the Buffalo Bills, you're simply just not going to get it done. And the offense, they were great. They scored 42 points. Jared Goff had 494 yards and 5 touchdowns and lost. And it wasn't because they were bad. It was because the defense simply is too injured. And that just doesn't match up well against the Bills, who've been really, really good on offense. They've been the best offense in the NFL, if it not named the Detroit Lions. So, it's sad, but it's crazy that Jared Goff has lost a game where he threw 5 touchdowns, but he's won a game where he threw 5 interceptions. Very interesting stat line. But when you look at these numbers, Amon-Ra St. Brown had 14 catches, 193 yards, and a touchdown, a really huge 66-yard touchdown. That was awesome. Sam Laporta had 7 catches, 111 yards. Jahmyr Gibbs really didn't run the ball all that well, but had 5 catches, 83 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Tim Patrick early in the game caught a touchdown, dove into the end zone. Really huge effort play. It was awesome. Dan Skipper, the backup offensive lineman, caught a touchdown in this game for the Lions. But there was so much good on this side of the football. I mean, it was awesome. It's just the Lions defense is just too hurt. It's too hurt. And thankfully, it seems like a lot of players that have been hurt are going to come back by the time the playoffs roll around, and getting that first round bye is going to be huge for them if they can keep on winning, although Philly won, so they're neck and neck right now, so they really can't afford to lose another game. But, I mean, right now, it just caught up to them, wasn't very good. But while Buffalo, I'm giving them their praise, their defense has got to get their crap together too, because this is 2 games now where you've allowed 40 points, and well, it's easy to say Josh Allen's playing out of his mind. Doesn't matter. It matters. Because come playoff time, I've said this, that is not going to happen. Josh Allen cannot play Superman every single game. It's simply not a plausible thing to rely on. As a defense, you got to play better, and you're going to have to help your quarterback out. Because if this defense can't do that and Josh Allen slows down, this Bills team might be in a load of trouble. And come playoff time, they're going to have to get that fixed, because that's not going to fly come postseason time. So the Bills defense needs to get their act together. But the Bills get another really good win against a good football team, which that matters. It's really good. Really good for the Bills. And for Detroit, it's a tough loss, but in the grand scheme of things, I think they're going to be okay. Next up, we have the Eagles beating the Steelers 27-13. Eagles getting a much-needed win for their locker room, while Pittsburgh showed up unprepared. The 2 things that won this game for Philly: better on third down, better time of possession, much better time of possession. But I said it. I said this before on the last episode. I said it. I said the Steelers defense is going to sell out to stop Saquon Barkley, and it could allow Jalen Hurts to have a bounce-back performance, and he did. 25-32, 290 yards, 2 touchdowns, had 45 yards and a touchdown on the ground. He was fantastic. Then A.J. Brown had 110 yards and a touchdown. Devontae Smith had 109 yards. And A.J. Brown earlier in the week, an presser, had talked about how they need to get the ball to him more and whatnot. People were like, oh, he's being a diva. And no. Here's the thing. While Jalen Hurts has been playing... I've said he's been playing clean and efficient football for the most part. The passing game really hasn't been all that effective for the Philadelphia Eagles. And another thing, come playoff time, it needs to be better. It needs to be better, and especially against the Pittsburgh Steelers, it had to be better, because the Steelers defense was going to sell it to stop Saquon Barkley. I called that. They were going to sell it and stop it, and Saquon Barkley was going to be slowed down in this game. And Jalen Hurts, in return, needed to step up. And he did. He stepped up big in this game. Barkley only had 65 yards. But like I said, Pittsburgh sold out. And defensively, what did the Eagles do to win? They stopped the run. Looking at the Steelers, there is Arthur Smith, their offensive coordinator, and Arthur Smith offense is run first. Look back in Tennessee. Tennessee, when they was there, obviously the offense ran through Derrick Henry. They had A.J. Brown. But the thing was, when you stopped Derrick Henry, when you stopped the running game in an Arthur Smith offense, everything falls apart. It happened in Tennessee, it happened in Atlanta, and now it's happening in Pittsburgh. And the sky's not falling down or nothing. But Russell Wilson only had 128 yards and a touchdown. Pickens was not in the game, which also hurt a lot. It's just the Eagles. We'll just continue with Pittsburgh for a second. Pittsburgh, this is a tough pill to swallow. This is a really tough pill to swallow, because the Ravens are 1 game behind. They play each other next week, which is huge, because if Baltimore wins, they're going to overtake Pittsburgh in the division. It's going to be a really, really, really big game for playoff implications, of course. But if there's one thing you can count on with Pittsburgh, whenever they have issues, Mike Tomlin will go in and fix them. You rarely see the Pittsburgh Steelers making the same mistake twice. So I fully expect things to be better next week going against Baltimore. But hey, you sold out to stop Saquon Barkley and allowed Jalen Hurts to go off and have a big bounce-back game for him, A.J. Brown, and Devontae Smith, which you're kind of picking your poison there. And for Philly, they needed this win. They needed this win for their offense, especially for their passing game. and they're fine. They're going to be okay. They're still in the running for the number 1 seed. If they can win out and maybe Detroit loses one because of this defense, maybe they can overtake and get the number 1 seed. It's possible, but definitely the Eagles are one of the best teams in the NFL, and they had a really, really good convincing showing against another really good football team in the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then we get to Sunday Night Football, where my 5th best game of the week, or 4th best game of the week, was another absolute stinker. Packers winning 30-13. And Packers get their 10th win of the season. Congratulations to them. And for the Seahawks, all of a sudden it looks like they might be out of the playoffs. Things have quickly turned into a disaster in Seattle. But starting with the Packers, Jordan Love, 20-27, 229 yards, 2 touchdowns. Very, very efficient game for him. Romeo Doubs had 3 catches, 40 yards. Both touchdowns went to him. He missed another one that should have been a touchdown. Christian Watson had 56 yards. Jaden Reed, 34 receiving yards, 27 rushing yards. Tucker Kraft, 34 receiving yards. Josh Jacobs had 94 yards on the ground, a touchdown, and 42 receiving yards. And the thing with the Packers offense is the ball distribution. They have a lot of talented players, but nothing elite over the top, except for Josh Jacobs. And so what do you do with an offense that's mostly that's talented but very young? You really rely on what they do best. And the Matt LaFleur, and I'm going to sit backwards for a second because my back is hurting, but the way that they've been able to, adapt to every player's strength as an offense, every player has their role and does something that they do best. Christian Watson is the big deep threat guy, right? Then you have Jaden Reed, who's your explosive gadget weapon. Then you have Romeo Doubs and you have Tucker Kraft, who are your over-the-middle security blanket type of players. And then you have Josh Jacobs, who can churn the ball out 30 times a game if you really wanted to. And you got an offense that's very well balanced, despite the fact that they're so young. And it's because Matt LaFleur has really been able to get this offense and really just cater to their strengths. They've really been able to just create a scheme that works to what they do best. And it's just been massively successful this year. And granted, sure, having an elite running back in the backfield has helped that a lot. But Jordan Love, especially this second half of the year, he's played much, much better football compared to the beginning. I would have hoped that he would have played like this all year long, of course. But the fact that he's playing his best when the games are getting the most important, that's good to see. This team really does feel like it could be another Cinderella run. It really feels like it could be another Cinderella type of year where, you shock someone in the wild card round. Then you go out and you nearly win in the divisional round like it was last year. That's a possibility for the Packers. And defensively, they had a day. They had 5 sacks, 2 picks. They really made life difficult for Geno Smith, which he went away with a knee injury in the middle of the third quarter. And we'll jump into it right there. 15-19, 149 yards, had an interception. Sam Howell came in. He was awful. He threw an interception. The only bright spot was Jackson Smith-Njigba, 10 catches, 83 yards. He's been great as usual all year, but no other player went over 30 receiving yards. That's not good enough. That's simply not going to be good enough. And Zach Charbonnet had 8 carries, 54 yards, and a touchdown. I thought he played well in the limited snaps he got, but simply just the Packers just got up on him so quickly. It was just they couldn't. They constantly had to throw. They constantly had to try and stay in it, and they couldn't. It's just not good enough offensively, and then defensively, you got smoked. The defensive line struggled a lot in this game. They really, really struggled. They didn't get any sacks. They were giving Jordan Love all day to throw the football. And the penalties in the secondary, they had 5 penalties for 108 yards. They had 2 DPIs that were absolute backbreakers. And that's simply, you're not going to win a football game that way. And with Seattle, they've lost first place in the division to the Rams, as we talked about at the beginning of the episode. And with Geno Smith hurt, this changes everything. This changes absolutely everything. Because right now, the only available seed, in my opinion, realistically, is the 7th seed. The Packers and the Vikings both are over 10 wins. They're, clinching a playoff berth for sure. And the 7th seed belongs to the Commanders, who are 8-5. And sure, they could lose a couple games and maybe you win a couple and take over that spot, but I have more faith in the Commanders winning this division compared to I have the Seattle Seahawks, getting that 7th seed. So I don't know. I really just don't think that Seattle, the injury is what really gets me. The loss of the Packers are a really good football team. So they were the better football team. I thought they were better. I thought they were going to win this game anyways. I was right about that. But it's the injury to Geno Smith. It's the injury that really feels heartbreaking because they were in it. They were doing better in the second half. They were playing really well. They had the division for 3 weeks in first place, and I thought they were going to run away with it. And then the Rams were actually better than I thought they were, and they have shown that they're the best team in the division for sure. And with Geno Smith hurt, I can't buy it. I just can't buy into the Sam Howell stepping up and taking this team to the playoffs. I can't. I simply can't. I'm sorry. And because I think the Commanders are going to lock up the 7th seed, the 5th and 6th seeds are already locked up in my opinion. The one way in they could have is that 7th seed, and if they don't find a way to win this division, which I don't think they can anymore without Geno, their year's over. And it's going to be a disappointing end to what I thought was a pretty magical season for the Seattle Seahawks, not really knowing where they'd go. But hey, I mean, at least they were in it, I guess. It's something to say for it. It's just unfortunate. It's very unfortunate that had to happen in this game so close to the end of the year. And it feels like almost all hope for the Seattle Seahawks making the playoffs is gone. But we'll finish on a positive note with the college football playoff happening, the first round starting this weekend. And quickly, I'm going to give you my picks for this game. Real quick, though, the first 2 teams out of the playoff were Miami and Alabama. Miami, it makes sense. They lost a couple really bad games, one at the very end of the year, which was awful. In Alabama, don't lose to Vanderbilt, don't lose to Oklahoma. Sorry, not sorry. Anyone complaining about Alabama not being in the playoff, shut up. Alabama did not deserve to be in the college football playoff. And going into the games, there's only one game that's going to be really good, and we'll save it at the end. The first game, Notre Dame and Indiana, I think this game might be decent. It might be decent because Indiana, they've had the one loss to Ohio State that was really bad, but they took care of business against every other team they went up against in the Big Ten. And you're going up against a good football team in Notre Dame that they did have a really bad loss to NIU earlier, which was not very good. But this game has the potential. It has the potential to be a good game. It's just a wild card because Notre Dame, they're a good football team. Indiana's a good football team, but Indiana really hasn't been able to face the best of the best, and Notre Dame is one of the best of the best. And I don't know. It could either be a blowout or it could be surprisingly close. There's really not much of an in-between. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. And then the next game on the list, SMU going to Penn State. Penn State's winning this game. Penn State's been able to take care of business against lesser opponents all year long. They have been ever since their head coach was hired a few years ago. And, obviously they didn't beat Ohio State. They can't beat them, can't beat Oregon, which will hold them back from competing for the national title. But I think they're going to handle their business against SMU. SMU sucks that they lost the conference championship against Clemson. I thought they were a better football team this year than Clemson, but didn't show up when it mattered. But hey, they're still in the playoffs, which they deserved it as well. As good of a year they had, they deserved to be in the playoffs. Come on, guys, they deserved it. And then the next game, Clemson and Texas. Texas, I think, is going to beat up on the Clemson Tigers pretty good. The Clemson had a better second half to the year, I thought, but Texas, despite the loss in the SEC championship game, they're just a much better football team. Their defense, especially in that against SEC championship game against Georgia, played out of their minds. They played out of their minds. A much better performance than when they played Georgia and in Arlington earlier in the year. And the last game, the best game of the year, Tennessee traveling to Ohio State. I have Tennessee winning this game because what Tennessee does on the offensively, they're like Michigan, but better. And Ohio State did not play well against Michigan. Now, to be fair, Ryan Day lost, or in Ohio State, they lost against Michigan because they tried to be a run-first football team, and that's not who they are. So if they go back to who they are and being a flashy, finesse football team with elite wide receivers, they have a chance. But with Tennessee and how well they run the ball and how well their freshman quarterback, Nico Iamaleava, is playing, he's had some good, bright moments. He's insanely talented. There's no doubting that. And you look at their defense, which has been one of the best in the entire country this year, almost all-time great, arguably. And it's just a tough matchup. And then you hear Tennessee fans trying to invade Ohio State and trying to check her out in the white and orange in Ohio State. And then I heard somewhere that there was like these discounted tickets for Ohio State fans to help, help them sell out these tickets so Tennessee fans would stop buying tickets and not, being available because that was an issue. And then apparently a Tennessee fan found the code, and so now much more Tennessee fans are buying tickets cheaper. So, I mean, it's a real possibility here that, and they're also planning them taking on the goalpost and taking it to the river down the stadium, which is pretty insane. But I'll say this. If Tennessee fans invade Ohio State, which is already vulnerable because that loss to Michigan was horrible, and people are already clamoring for Ryan Day to be fired. If Tennessee fans invade Ohio State, Tennessee is winning this game. I think they might smoke them. I think that's a real possibility. And if that happens, even if it's not a blowout, if Tennessee beats Ohio State and Tennessee fans invade the stadium, Ryan Day is going to be fired. He's going to be fired. There's no way he's going to keep his job after that, because every year he just, in the biggest games, he doesn't show up. Against Michigan, he does not show up. It's simply the same tune over and over and over again for Ohio State, which sucks because this is probably one of the best teams they've fielded in recent memory, I thought. And so we'll just have to see. They spent the most money in NAL, so that would be a very, really bad look if Tennessee goes in there and beats them. And if their fans invade, which I think is probably going to happen. Oh boy, that's a whole issue waiting to happen over there in Ohio State. Other than that, for college football, Travis Hunter won the Heisman Trophy. Congratulations to him. I thought Ashton Jeanty was more deserving, but the argument for Travis Hunter, I can buy it because of the two-way play, how many snaps he played at a high level for both. Definitely all down the hill. He did not. He did not deserve to win the Blitnikoff Award. He was not the best receiver in college football this year. That went to out of San Jose State, I think it was. Last name Nash. I can't remember his first name, but shout out to him. He had a triple crown. He was really, really good this year. Very underrated guy. But Travis Hunter was not the best receiver in college football. That simply is not a fact. But hey, he won it. So congratulations to him. Show the respect. And for winning the Heisman Trophy, that's awesome. Really good. Honestly, Travis Hunter is a really good story because number one prospect coming out of high school, and he chose to go to Jackson State and HBCU to go play for Deion Sanders, and then plays really well over there, and then goes to Colorado with Deion. It makes an absolute impact from week one against TCU, and he's had a great career in college so far, and he's going to be a top 3 pick in the draft at minimum. So it's really good for him, and it'll be interesting to see what he does in the NFL. But other than that, Bill Belichick becoming the head coach of North Carolina, coaching the Tar Heels. This is huge. This is like the same level of Deion going to Colorado. Like that, it's that same type of stuff. Bill Belichick, obviously 6-time Super Bowl winning head coach for the New England Patriots, owning probably the best dynasty in all professional sports, definitely in football for sure. And I think a lot of players when they enter the transfer portal, it's gonna be interesting to see how many recruits that Bill Belichick gets. It's gonna be really interesting because Bill Belichick, while you can say, sure, like the past few years in New England weren't that good, and he's going to try and run, he said he's going to try and run his program similar to the NFL to really commit to a NFL development program. I think players are going to transfer to that because not enough college programs anymore, especially the top ones, really care about NFL development. They really care about winning now and playing now and doing all that jazz. And then when we get to the NFL, they're not as prepared. Why do you think we see so many quarterbacks now struggle within their first couple years? Because they're simply not ready for the NFL because the college teams are not preparing them for that as much as they've used to. So seeing Bill Belichick at least say he's going to commit to, developing a program and developing NFL talent, that's a good thing. That's a really good thing. And maybe if that results in wins as well, maybe we can see a little bit more of a shift in college football where the commitment to NFL development seems, takes more of a prominence again. But with college programs and the immediate, want to win now, and then NIL coming into a thing, the transfer portal being more open than it's ever been, it's really created that it's really become corporatized, like the NFL is. The NFL is always about, in the offseason, spend a bunch of money, draft really well, and then boom, you got, try and win now. That's been the thing. And so the commitment to building a program and building NFL level talent and preparing guys for the pros, that has really been a dead thing in college football. So seeing Bill Belichick say he's going to do it, I believe that he's going to. And if it happens and it results in wins, we can really see a shift in college football where top programs are willing to recommit more resources into NFL development, which would be really good for college and good for the league going forward, especially for these young quarterbacks. Maybe we'll start seeing more success out of them in the years to come. And to conclude the show, we'll talk about the draft, because the NFL draft is going to be absolute chaos for the quarterbacks. Because right now, as it stands, 7 teams need a quarterback next year. 7 teams will need one, and right now in the draft, there's only 2 guys that I'm considering first-round talents, Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. And even then, they're not that highly touted of prospects because they both have their fatal flaws. Like Shedeur Sanders, not a great athlete, he can run a little bit, not a great arm talent, holds the ball on too long. And then Cam Ward, all the talent in the world, but tends to be careless with the football sometimes. So, and people talked about this, if they both went for the draft last year, they would have been QB 5 and 6. Or QB 6 and 7. Like, they would have not gone before Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, Bo Nix, and all those other guys, Michael Penix. And so they're kind of first round talents by default, but they are very talented. So I'm not going to take too much away from them. But outside of that, Jalen Milroe is a 3rd round pick at best. Carson Beck is a 3rd round pick at best, especially now with his injury. Quinn Ewers could be a 2nd round pick, but even then, I'd probably consider that a reach if it's a high second, like in the 30s. But the question is now, with so many teams needing a quarterback at the top, will one of these quarterbacks have a good showing at the combine and their draft stock insanely rise, like Anthony Richardson, or will a team reach for a quarterback and make a very questionable decision, kind of like on paper with what the Falcons did with Michael Penix? I don't know. Like, who knows what's going to happen in this draft? But the fact that, 7 teams need a quarterback and there's only 2 first-round talents at quarterback, and then there's, the free agent market at quarterback's not that good for veteran quarterbacks. And then outside of those top guys, and going back to the college thing, Dylan Gabriel, who knows where he's going to land? If he's got that high-end talent that quarterbacks or NFL teams are looking for, Drew Aller will probably stay at Penn State. And shoot, Quinn Ewers has the possibility that he's going to stay one more year and transfer because Texas plans to move on with Arch Manning going into next year. So if he stays one more year, that'll also take another quarterback out of the mix. So it's going to be really interesting to see what this NFL draft does in this free agency, because many teams that need a quarterback are going to have to settle for a veteran one and act as a bridge and be bad again. And that's the thing. You get like Sam Darnold, for example. Whoever gets Sam Darnold, you might as well not draft a quarterback, because Sam Darnold, if you have a good situation around him, he's going to elevate and do good for your football team. He's going to play well. So you almost have to put him in a bad situation just to carry him over if you want to do that. It's just tough. It's just a really tough situation for NFL teams right now because there's simply more demand than what there is supply. So it's really tough. It's going to be really interesting. And I believe that this NFL draft coming up for quarterbacks is going to be absolute chaos. We're going to see quarterbacks taken higher than they should. We're going to see, maybe one quarterback or two have an outstanding combine, outstanding pro day, and step up and play well and, get drafted higher because of it. We'll just have to see, but it is absolute chaos. I think it's going to be in the draft. But that is going to do it for me. Again, absolute disaster of an episode. Many jump cuts. I am sorry. I'm very, very sorry. First episode with a new chair, new camera. I was feeling good about it. And then my camera on my phone had other plans. But don't forget to do whatever YouTuber tells you to do, guys. You guys know the drill. Like the video, subscribe. Pressing those 2 buttons helps the channel absolutely a lot. It's free. You can always change your mind. And comments, let me know your thoughts. Leave them down below, whether it's about football, completely unrelated, or you just want to say hi. Leave it down below. If you say hi, I will say hi back. 100% guaranteed. And of course, share the video, whether you're clicking on a link, posting it on social media, or talking about it with your friends or family. Word of mouth advertising is always great. Get everybody locked in and locked on to the Shumake Take podcast, coming out with great content for you guys 2 days a week, coming out on Tuesday and Wednesday mornings at 8 a.m. That is going to do it for me today, guys. And wow, we did it. I will see you guys next time.